pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
We're here tonight, Lord, look at us, look at the town and planning board and board of justice commission. Approval of the minutes from last meeting. Everybody read them? Got a motion? All four? Yep. All
No
approved.
changes? Unanimous on that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Got new business that we're going to.
Everyone okay with the agenda as written?
Yeah, well, we got set.
Nothing to add? Okay.
Sean?
Okay. Good evening, board. We have just one item under new business tonight. Item 6A on your agenda is for a rezoning request submitted to the town by Mr. and Mrs. Beavers for their property at 612 North Broad Street East. Each board member should have a copy of the staff report in front of them, the first page of which includes a vicinity map of the property in question. For reference, this is directly across Broad Street from the Andrew Post Office at the intersection of North Broad Street East and Roy Street. The property is roughly 0.64 acres, and it does contain an existing single-family dwelling. On page 2 of your staff report, which will be on your back page of the hard copy there, you'll see a zoning map screenshot on the left side of the page here and on the screen. The red arrow is pointing to the property in question. As you can see, it is currently zoned R10, as does most of the parcels on the east side of Broad Street. This pinkish red color on the west side of Broad Street is our general commercial district, which is the requested zoning of the property in question tonight. This right here is the post office property just to the north of Dupree Street. That is the bank right across the street from the parcel in question here. Turn your attention to the table on the right-hand side of your page there. We have a table showing the comparison between the current zoning of R10 and the requested zoning of conditional general commercial. The minimum lot size will drop from 10,000 to 6,000 square feet if approved. You'll notice there is only one P for permitted use in the box on the left column, on the right column on the screen here. That is because the applicant has proposed just one allowable use in the conditional zoning district, which is for medical office only. So this is not a standard general commercial rezoning. This is conditioned upon a medical office use only on the property, which will carry with the land just like a regular zoning district.
If she sells the land or gets rid of the land, it goes back to...
It doesn't change a thing. You can transfer it as many times as you'd like. It stays conditional for medical use only unless rezoned again.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Good question. Physical characteristics. Got an aerial screenshot on the screen and on the page in front of you here. There's the post office across the street, bank north side of Dupree Street. I highlighted a couple other things in the vicinity for reference. There's the Andrew Pool a block away. There's a church on the corner of Ray Street and Broad Street, a block south. And as you can see, surrounding is a neighborhood of single-family homes. Like I said, 0.64 acres for the property in question, with a dwelling currently constructed. It does have access to Town of Andrew water and sewer currently, and it does have frontage on both Broad Street and Roy Street. As we always do, we'll take a look at our land use compatibility map here on the screen. This yellow parcel where the red arrow is pointing to is the one in question. That yellow color on the map on the screen there is our medium density residential classification. The dark red across the street where the post office is, that's our commercial classification. That said, the table on the right side of the screen here shows you a comparison between the proposed zoning of general commercial and the proposed classification for future land use, which is medium density residential. So we know those two things do not align. The staff evaluation is on page 4 out of 5 of your staff report. I won't read through it in its entirety. Just want to hit the highlights for you. Okay, number one, staff concludes that with the appropriate conditions, the requested zoning would allow for the proposed medical use in harmony with surrounding neighborhood. Number two, we just talked about the requested zoning is not in line with the medium density residential on the land use plan. Number three, again, with the appropriate conditions, it does enhance or maintain public health, safety, and welfare. And number four, it says not up for a small-scale rezoning because we know we have the directly adjacent commercial properties across the street here. Staff recommendation for this particular conditional rezoning is for approval with the condition that all of the drafted conditions before you tonight and any recommended by the planning board are enforced. So my recommendation is only for approval if these conditions are part of that approval. We do have the applicant and their engineer representing the applicant here tonight. Before we hear from them, did want to point out there's a separate 8.5 by 11 sheet before you showing a proposed site plan for the particular medical office proposed. You can see that the applicant has outlined the existing dwellings building envelope, which is roughly 1,800 square feet. It does have kind of a U-shaped driveway with two access points on a broad street. There is a 10-foot type C landscape buffer, both on Broad and Roy Street. And there is a type A 15-foot landscape buffer along the other two sides, the rear and the right side of the dwelling. Does the board have any questions for staff before we give the applicant time to speak?
Anybody got anything?
Good. All right. Anyone like to speak?
Okay, well, I'm Melinda Beavers. To tell you a little bit about why we requested the rezoning, I'm a pediatrician, and I've been practicing in Holly Springs for the last 4 years. I believe that there's a much greater need for a pediatric practice here in Angier. You have one that it doesn't necessarily pull a lot of your local population, and I'm looking for somewhere where I can truly be a part of the community. So it's really important to me that we emphasize community in this practice, and I think having a building that is truly a home and truly a part of the community is a big part of that. When children say they've come to Dr. Beaver's house at the office, it's cute, but it's really sterile to walk into a boxed doctor's office, and it is possible to create an environment for families that's very welcoming to kids and can be very open to families and how they're addressing some really personal problems sometimes within their child's life or within their life as a family. It's also really important to me that we fit the community around it. So I understand that I'm asking to take something that is very much a house, and in fact a house that's got a lot of heritage in Angier, and to allow this to have a medical practice in it. It's really important to me that when people come by on a Saturday or a Sunday and the practice isn't open, that they think, I wonder if that family just went on vacation, unless they truly look to see our signage. I want it to look like it's always been a part of the community and that it doesn't look commercial in terms of a great big asphalt parking lot or something that doesn't jive with the neighborhood around it. I'm from a small town, and I absolutely understand the importance of careful, cultured growth that fits the environment around it. As the town that I grew up in started to grow with industry and other things coming in town, it became very disjointed, and we came back together as a community to figure out how to stay one connected town. So it's really important to me that we, if you agree to this to go ahead, that it also meets all of the community vibe that Angier has to offer from an external and an internal perspective. I do think it has value to the town of Angier as well. A lot of people are taking their pediatric care outside of Angier, so they're going to seek care at Incarnate Health in Lillington with Dr. Langdon. They're going to Fuquay Pediatrics, or they're going to my previous employer, Jeffers Man and Artman in Holly Springs. And a few people are even driving to Raleigh and Clayton in some of the research that we did. So it not only keeps your pediatric families here with a practice that's local, it could potentially bring business in. I have a lot of families waiting for me to open my practice back up, and we're waiting for the right time and the right location to do that, but they're going to bring business into Anger. And if your child is treated in Anger, you're going to go to the Anger pharmacies, you're going to go to the Anger stores. And so it has the potential to bring other business into the town in a way that doesn't disrupt the flow of the town. It's also really important to me that this property has an ingress and egress off of North Broad Street, so it keeps patients off of the residential streets where families are going to be turning in and out of their driveways. It's just across from the post office, so there's a good bit of traffic there as well. But we see about 3 to 5 an hour, so we're not adding significantly to that traffic burden. And our hours are going to be 8:30 to 4:30. So the last patient on a long day might leave at 5 o'clock, but we're not going to be bringing lots of traffic in at the highest traffic times for the rest of the town. We might have some visits on weekends, but that's just going to be for brand new babies and really important things we've been following along, not a regular Saturday morning clinic, which I would love to offer, but at the same time, I have 3 kids of my own, so I'll be parenting them on Saturday mornings most of the time. Do you guys have any questions for me about the business itself or how we would run that? If not, I'll turn it over to the engineer to talk more about the things I don't understand as a doctor. All right. Jonathan.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Don Curry with Curry Engineering, 205 South Fuquay Avenue in Fuquay, Varina. And we appreciate Mr. Johnson's presentation. I have nothing really to add to that. We do think that it is a reasonable and a good use of the property for this rezoning. Just to reiterate what Dr. Beavers had explained, we do think it's an asset for the town of Anger. We fully intend to comply with all the requirements from a site perspective in the town, and I think that the conditions that we're showing here and offering also help with the use of the property and help buffering adjacent properties that are residential in nature surrounding it. So be glad to help answer any questions you might have from a site perspective. We do appreciate your consideration of this rezoning request. Thank you.
Anybody got any questions? Yeah, that's fine. Come on.
My name's Bob Usness. I live at 574 North Broad Street East, which is right next door across Roy Street. As a citizen of Anger, I got to meet with her right after she bought the property and talked to her about what her plans were, because it was going to be my new neighbor. And I think that as a citizen, what she wants to bring to the town would be beneficial to everyone here. As her neighbor, my unique insights would be that, you know, we're just the house right below her in this picture. We've already got the post office across the street from us. We've got the bank across the street from us. We really don't use our front yard because Broad Street's already kind of a big thoroughfare in the town. Our kids don't play in the front yard. We don't do anything in the front yard but keep the grass cut. So all of our life happens on the Roy Street side and in the backyard. I don't know what conditions you've got on your paper, but I talked to her about what her plans were for parking specifically was one of my concerns. And I think that she and her staff will use Roy Street to park behind the house, which I don't have a problem with because anyone who lived there would do the same thing. Her hours would be like the ideal neighbor, you know? Nobody's there after 5 o'clock or on the weekends and playing music or being annoying or complaining about my house. So my largest concern, which I think she is addressing anyway, is to keep the commercial business happening from Broad Street and to keep patients off of Roy Street. I mean, deliveries, maybe I take deliveries on Roy Street. Any house there would take a UPS delivery or something like that on Roy Street. We're not opposed to that. And I think that she's got a good plan for that. I think that if there are some careful considerations made to, you know, what you classify or what she could do with the property or the conditions of it, then I am not opposed. That would be my stance. Yes, I'm finished, Miss Useness. Thank you.
How big is the sign?
It can be as big or as small as you want. I don't like large signs, but at the same time, I want to make sure that people pull into my yard and not yours looking for the office. So I also want something that's a little, I don't mind spending a little bit more money, like putting pavers in instead of, you know, just paving the whole front yard. Like putting in, you know, a flower bed and like lined walkways to make sure the kids are walking where people are not driving, because those are things that are really important to me when I take my kids to doctor's offices and worry they're going to run through the parking lot. And I don't mind the idea of investing. I don't mind is the wrong word. I intend to invest in a quality sign, something like what you have behind you, that looks like it was made with effort and thought and is meant to be there and
Small,
laser.
personal, and like
Yes.
an
Something that's
in-home
like
doctor's
clear,
office would be, yeah.
nothing
Okay.
that's not neon.
Not like the church, like the bank sign.
No, nothing that
Okay.
stands up tall and flashes. Like, it would be a beautiful either carved or brick or mortar
Right.
sign that would be very classy.
Compete with the aesthetic of the area. Exactly.
And I would love for it to kind of match the house as well.
Yeah.
Because it's a beautiful brick and something that really just, the kind of thing where if you didn't look twice, you might even think that it was just kind of like a decorative part of the front of the house. That's important to me. I mean, I really would love if people missed it the first time by and then learned that that's Dr. Weaver's office, right? I want it to look like it belongs.
I would say that it does need to be large enough.
He doesn't want them to pull into his driveway, and I'm down with that.
Because
That's okay.
everyone turns around in my driveway. The mailman, the UPS man, every
We'll
walk
make it
soul
easier for them to do mine.
on that side of town turns around in my driveway. So I would like her sign to be noticeable enough that her patients find her driveway.
I'll get Courtney.
But don't restrict her too hard.
Get one of those gates
Size.
that close there. That way.
Because people walk into my house all the time.
So we've had people walk into our house like
He
3
told
times.
me. He told me.
Yeah,
People
they
walk
just
in.
walk in like, hey, is this the business? No.
So if we put one over there, maybe they'll leave yours alone.
What about the large trees? Where you're not cutting any of the large
Not a
trees
lot.
down?
I'll take the pine tree that's closest to the house. They really take away from the oaks as well.
Yeah.
And that's another reason to put pavers down instead of putting like concrete or asphalt, because those would eventually kill the root system,
Mhm.
whereas pavers would allow water to continue to absorb in.
Right.
And then we might even do, like that pathway idea, it might even need to be like pea gravel to allow better absorption in that area. But that drainage and supporting the trees would be very important. There's also actually azaleas that have lived on that property for a while, and they'll need to move in certain places. So my hope is to transplant them, because azaleas can be hardy. I just love heritage. I love the idea that they possibly have been there.
Forever.
Yeah.
As long as
the
the house-
house. There's a place where one of those big oaks in the back corner of the lot, which I guess would be the northeast corner of the lot, died at some point, and you could see where all of the azaleas used to ring it, and there was a bench. So like trying to find some way to use that. I'm not sure I want to trust kids to go buck wild in the backyard if they don't know what to do with yellow jackets and snakes, but we might eventually even be able to make that backyard a place that parents could wait with their children outside, or if I need to see them in the way they interact. I mean, that has the potential to offer a lot for families at a pediatrician's office.
And what about deliveries? You're not going to be expecting like a freight truck's worth of deliveries every month, right? We're talking Amazon packages.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And most of it will actually be bundled, because we'll do our purchasing through a group purchasing organization to help us afford our stuff, since we're not a hospital-sized group.
Right.
They give us kind of that bulk discount, but it all kind of comes together. So it actually minimizes deliveries would probably be twice a week.
Delivered on a UPS truck or a freight truck?
UPS. The one freight, anything that I had is the vaccine fridge, and that's already come. So I don't have anything else that should show up on freight.
Would you be opposed to us putting public access only from Broad on the
Not at all.
I mean, I know that's how you have it set up anyway, but I'd like it to be on there.
I think that's reassuring, and I think anything that, I think one of the values of this conditional rezoning is that if at some point my medical practice doesn't stay there, which I don't foresee, we're investing in it to be there. But if for some reason it needed to move from that site, I wanted to either continue to be a medical office that has the same goals or go back to residential. And our goal is to not change anything so drastically that that would be impossible, even interiorly. We have to create handicap accessible bathrooms, which don't exist right now. But my goal is that no interior changes be so drastic that you couldn't keep it or revert it back to something residential. I'm not sure that that's practical, but once it becomes a medical office, but it would be possible.
Anything else?
I mean,
Anybody have questions about the condition sheet? There's
I would
4.
like to add what I was talking about with the public parking, public access only from North Broad Street.
Okay.
Can we add that in somehow?
Number 5, public access, and are we talking parking too?
Yeah.
Okay. From Broad Street only? Okay.
Maybe in the front.
So where it
Where
is,
circle
it's
is
just,
Oh,
it's
already
just
included
putting it
in
in
that.
on paper so that it can't change. Mostly so that if they do get big and they want to make it bigger, they're not adding parking spaces over there later on. They'll have to figure it out up front. My only future problem.
It's kind of restricted to the building itself, right? So it's going
Right.
to lead to 4 exam rooms, a waiting area, and an admin area, so it can only grow so large.
Right.
So, I mean, it's kind of made for.
And then there's no plants on this map, but it will be a landscape buffer on the residential sides, right?
It's got,
All 4
you
sides.
got on the other two.
Yeah. I just didn't see any.
There's 6-foot burn,
Mm.
well, sorry, 6-foot
Your house, over here.
limit, and things like the burn and the landscaping that we're not sure. And then we also discussed, I discussed with our neighbors to the north, possibly doing a fence along that line and just discussing with them which they would prefer, whether they would prefer a landscaping barrier versus a fence barrier, because their dog stops our yard sometimes. So it's up to them, and then us figuring out what's best for, patients coming in and out if their dog wants to greet everyone when they have to have discussions about it. Because I love pets, but I understand not all patients do. So
Yeah.
Well, I think the conditions do specify a fence on.
I think we added that, having a fence along the north and east borders.
Yeah.
The fence, if there's all the, it could be liability. Yeah.
So when you say that you're going to be involved in the community, I'm just because I want to know, do we have like hikes or things like that we could look forward to that would be sponsored by you guys, or things at the park that would, I do actually take my kids to Fuquay, so I'll be one of those people that I don't take them to Andrew pediatricians because they're not personable still, or at least from what I've read, I haven't found one. So I think
yes,
that would be.
I want to be a part of the whole community, because getting kids to go out with their doctor and do something, and then they've experienced it once, and it's easier for parents to then go out and do it again and again. So being involved, and there's different levels, and as a practice, we want to do something a little bit unique with classes and cohorts that are going to provide education at various levels of parenting, because when you have access to the internet, you have access to a lot of information, and you have access to a lot of junk, and so helping parents filter through all of that. It not only helps you feel more confident as a parent, it helps to foster relationships with other parents who may be going through similar life situations, and so then that helps to build community that way. So, it's not something that a lot of practices do, but it's something that's really important to me, and being able to do that and make sure that it's done correctly. From what I can tell, I think Dr. Coretta, who works in Andrew right now, has a wonderful following that fits her niche. I'm not the right doctor for everybody because of the way that I doctor, the way that I interact with patients. I talk a lot. Some people don't want me to talk a lot.
They want to get in and get out.
Some parents do. And so I think that
more questions?
We added
Mm-hmm. Put it on the,
I've kept mine, but yeah. So if you need to know about Dr. Beavers, you just need to go to the internet and get on social media and just look up her name, and you'll find the reputation that she has and the kind of position that she would be bringing, the practices she'd be bringing me into.
Are you part of the practice?
I am part of the education piece that we'll be bringing. So, but also a big supporter, so that is why I'm sitting beside her today.
right, ready?
We're ready.
And you wanna read the standards of use for us?
You want me to read it?
Yeah. And we gonna do each one and vote on it, or you gonna vote all at one time?
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, question? Okay.
Okay, my name is Maru Holly, in the capacity of being a constituent. How many doctors do you plan on having on site?
Well, to start with, it'll just be me.
Is she? Okay.
If we grew, I'm actually going to be really picky about who gets to grow with me,
Okay. That's
because
what
I
I
want to
wanted
keep
know.
my brand. Yeah.
Thank you.
We got to do it right.
Any more discussion? Okay. How about board, there, okay?
I'm good.
You
Yeah.
wanna vote on each one of these, or read them all and vote on it? Each one? Okay. All right,
The proposal will place all properties similarly situated in the area in the same category or in an appropriate complementary category.
yep, vote.
All in
Ed?
favor?
All in favor?
Vote.
All right,
There is convincing demonstration that all uses permitted under the proposed district classification would be in the general public interest and not merely in the interest of an individual or small group.
all right, call for a vote. All four? Unanimous.
There is convincing demonstration that the character of the neighborhood will not be materially or adversely affected by any use permitted in the proposed change.
That's good.
That's
All right.
good.
Unanimous.
The proposed change is in accordance with the comprehensive plan and sound planning practices.
Vote.
Does that count?
So can we have one final vote with a motion?
I move that we approve this.
Yep.
change.
To approve or disapprove, all four, or against? We're going, all four?
Or
It passed.
Okay, so the public hearing will be August 2nd, right here in the same time, same place. And we will pass along these 5 conditions to the commissioners.
Is there anything else?
at August 2nd.
Yes.
Board of adjourned.